You've had a good run, but you're not done. I want to start today by saying something that I mean with complete sincerity. What you've built matters. The career, the family, the decades of showing up for the people who needed you, the seasons you gave yourself to fully and faithfully. I don't want to move past that too quickly because sometimes in conversations about what's next, there's a tendency to minimize what has been, as if the only thing that counts is the future. What has been counts. What you gave counts. What you built counts. I think about a woman, a retired teacher, 34 years in the classroom, who said, I gave my best years to those kids, and I don't regret a single day of it. But she also said, when I walked out of that building for the last time, I realized I'd spent so long pouring into other people's futures, I really hadn't thought too much about my own future. 34 years, faithful, excellent, deeply meaningful work, and she was standing at a threshold that she hadn't anticipated. Not because the work wasn't worth it, because it was. She gave everything she had, and now she was standing on the other side of it, wondering what's next. That's the threshold I want to talk about today. Not a crisis, not a falling apart, but a standing at the edge of something new, looking out at it with questions that really haven't been fully answered yet, like what comes next? Who am I now that this season is changing? Is there something else for me? I want to talk about how you understand this moment because I've seen two very different ways that people frame it. The framing determines almost everything that happens next. The first way is this. They look at this threshold and think the best is behind me. I've had my run, and now comes maintenance, winding down, making the most of what's left. I understand why people think that. The culture tells them that. Sometimes the people around them tell them that. And there are days when it feels true from the inside. But what I want to offer is a different frame, and I want to offer it from a story that Jesus told. In Matthew 25, there are three servants and a master who's going on a long journey, so he leaves each of them something to work with. The first gets 5 talents, a significant sum. The second gets 2, and the third gets 1. Two of them take what they're given and they put it to work. They invest it, they build with it, they make something from it. But the third dug a hole and he buried his. He was careful with it, kept it safe, doesn't risk it. And when the master comes back, the two who'd built with what they were given are celebrated. But the one who buried it, he's not praised for his caution. The master says you should have at least put it to work. I've thought about that story a lot in relation to this season of life, kind of the messy midlife journey, because what you carry into the second half, the wisdom, the experience and ability, the depth of character that only comes from having actually lived a full life, you've been given all that to work with. And the question that this threshold is asking isn't complicated. Simply, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to build with it? Are you going to bury it out of uncertainty, out of the quiet fear that it's too late, out of the belief that the significant years are behind you? I want to tell you something about the teacher I mentioned earlier. She didn't wind down. After spending some time kind of working through who she actually was outside of the classroom, what she loved, what she carried forward, what she was genuinely made to do, she started a literacy program for the adults in her county who couldn't read. And within 2 years, 40 people had come to read. She told me it was the most alive she had felt since her first year of teaching, not despite the fact that the classroom was over, but because of everything she'd learned in 34 years in the classroom. She'd had a good run, but she knew she wasn't done. Everything you've survived, every season you've navigated, every hard thing that produced something in you that couldn't have been produced any other way, none of it was wasted. All of it was preparation. The question now is, what are you going to build with it? On Thursday, I'm going to give you a framework, the most practical thing I've offered yet. 5 elements that become the raw material for your very next chapter. So go ahead and subscribe, if you will, to this YouTube channel, and then I'll see you on Thursday.